Good evening, T. Blake Brady here, and I've been thinking about Stephen King's newest novel, Holly. You know, I've really enjoyed Stephen King's turn toward mystery fiction in the latter part of his career, starting back with the Bill Hodges trilogy and Mr. Mercedes, and leading up to Stephen King's Holly, the newest novel featuring Holly Gibney. But there's one thing I really have to say that I've been thinking about a lot, I need to talk about on the channel, and I hope that you'll follow along with me in it. You see, there's this concept called Chekhov's gun, and it relates back to Anton Chekhov's famous use of foreshadowing to mean that anything that is important brought up early in a book needs to pay off later. It's slightly different than foreshadowing, but it's not an altogether different beast. A lot of other writers, like Ernest Hemingway, were not a fan of Chekhov's gun and think that it's okay to have dead ends in books, but Chekhov's gun is a perfectly reasonable thing to read into when you read a book or watch a movie. If something is brought up earlier in the book, earlier in the movie, it needs to pay off later on, especially if you want it to feel like a successful reading or writing endeavor. And there's something in Stephen King's newest book that doesn't pay off quite in the way that I think most people who've read his books in the past would expect it to pay off. Primarily, I try to keep these discussions spoiler free, but there's something about this that is going to get into a slight spoiler. So if you haven't read the book, go read the book and then come back. Although I don't think this is going to ruin anything necessarily, but if you're weird about spoilers, go read the book and come back because we have to talk about the spoiler alert wood chipper. Early on in Stephen King's Holly, there is a mention of a wood chipper. There are two famous old writers and professors, the Harris family, and they are these cannibalistic serial killers who feed on their victims to try to tamp down the effects of aging on the body. I've talked about Theme before in one of my videos that just got released, so go back and watch that if you want to hear about Theme. I have to talk about the wood chipper. Of course, the most famous use of a wood chipper in all of fiction has to be from the Coen Brothers film Fargo, when Steve Buscemi's character gets shoved into a wood chipper. Now, that is a spoiler for a 30-year-old movie, but if you haven't seen it, go back. The wood chipper is not the biggest part about it, but it is a bloody, disgusting good time. And I know that the world of fiction has changed and that we look at victims in a different way, and Steve Buscemi was not a victim in Fargo.
Oh, Daddy.
But I really want to talk about the fact that in Stephen King's Holly, we get this disgusting horror mechanism brought up in the book, and it does not pay off in the way that we expect it to.
Oh, the wood chipper.
I think Stephen King wanted to kind of subvert our expectations with it.
I'm gonna scare the hell out of you.
But here's the problem. I'm okay with that, and I think that's a perfectly thing to do. But what Stephen King said in interviews in the lead up to Holly's release was that there would be some disturbing scenes in the book. And I agree, some of the things that are in the book are disturbing, and they are frankly emotional. And I've seen writers like Paul Tremblay talk about weeping in this book, and I think that happens. I felt quite a bit of emotions. The pollen was out for me too at the end of the book, and it was an emotional roller coaster. And I think that Stephen King pays a respectful tone to all of the victims in the book, and I know that that is not his intention. He has not been above grossing people out in the past. And I don't think that necessarily all of the characters who get fed into a wood chipper in this book, it all happens off camera, and I also think that that's fine. But here's the thing that I want us to talk about is that we have two very demented, evil serial killers in this book. And I think that in the end of the book, it would have been okay, just okay a little bit, if we had used the wood chipper on the two villains, right? Because it is such a big piece of fiction in my mind. It is lingering in the book, in the back of your mind for the entirety of Holly. And you keep waiting for this gun to go off, to go back to Anton Chekhov's famous foreshadowing use of Chekhov's gun. It just never goes off. We know that it is used. It is used in the background. It is used off screen in the book, but it is never deployed within the pages of the book. And I hear some of you at home saying that, oh, Tyler, that's really morbid and sick and stuff. I know, but I'm reading a Stephen King book, and I think that if we're going to be respectful to the victims, I think we should. The world is different from when Stephen King wrote Carrie 40, 50 some odd years ago. But I do think that it would be okay that if we have a wood chipper and it's used in the book and it's there and it's disgusting, that we can at least use it on our villains, okay? That is all I'm asking for. And I really hate that it wasn't used because it is such a demented thing to include in a book. It is a horrifying thing to use in a book. And not only that, but it tortures us, the reader, because we expect, as we're reading the book, for it to show up at some point, for us to have a scene with the wood chipper. Because early on in the book, when they have the wood chipper and it's referenced in the background, there's a character who says, there's a wood chipper over there, and you're probably going to use it on me. The fact that Stephen King didn't use it in that chapter, I thought was brilliant, but I expected it to come back at some point, and I am no bloodthirsty monster. I mean, I guess sometimes I am, but here's the thing. I think that it should have been used in the book. I think that at the end, we should have had the use of the wood chipper. There's a wood chipper. How many times can I say wood chipper? It's almost like I should use one here. I don't have one, but if I did, I'd use it on something right now. Maybe some wood. Definitely not people, but I would love to see Stephen King use the wood chipper in his newest book. And that's the thing that drives me crazy, is that it was an unfulfilled promise. Everyone who read this book, I hope, was thinking about, oh my God, when are we going to see the wood chipper again? I don't know, but it didn't show up, and I am not disappointed because I'm not a monster, but I would like to have seen it used and implemented in the way that I think all old school horror fans and Stephen King fans would like to see it implemented. Okay, now, so if you enjoyed this demented rant about wood chippers and horror novels and Stephen King and Holly and his new book and reviews and all of that, subscribe to the channel. You'll get more videos like this. I try to post once to twice a week. I am desperately, terribly ill right now. You can probably hear it in my voice, but as soon as I'm back to 100%, I will be posting again with regularity. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.